UFC Fight Night Vegas 66, Cannonier versus Strickland took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away, for the last time this year, with the early prelim opener of Sergey Morozov versus Julian Newson. I picked Sergey Morozov to win. I said he would out-grapple Julian Newson every single round and win this fight via 30-27 unanimous decision. And that's what happened. He got the job done against Julian Newson, and it was dull. A lot of the fights early on in this card, the prelims didn't deliver the same way the main card did, but it did pick up as the card went on. But I've rewatched this now, and Morozov just had better grappling, great takedowns. Julian Newson was doing okay in some of the scrambles and some of the moments, but Morozov was very, very relentless and ended up with enough control time to make up the difference in the fight. Both guys were doing okay on the feet. Morozov more attacking the legs. Newson landed a few more shots to the head. But, yeah, Newson, in the third round, he did okay. But in the first two rounds, he just didn't do enough damage to make a difference to where it would overcome the grappling of Morozov. So Morozov won the fight, very clear, and started off the card in stinky fashion, in my opinion. We move on. Up the card, Manel Kape versus David Dvorak. Very good performance by Manel Kape. He had great moments in this fight. Round one, Dvorak did okay. He was doing pretty good. Not too shabby for himself. But Manel Kape came alive. He started to do very, very well in round two. I think he even at one point did he hurt Dvorak with a body shot? I remember, I think it was a body shot that he hurt him with, I know it was a body shot, but I think it was a left hook to the liver from Manel Kape that had him hunched over against a cage and nearly finished. And then there was even another moment where he had a Kimura on David Dvorak, and David Dvorak just wouldn't submit, and there was another submission as well. David Dvorak showed very, very good toughness, but again, Manel Kape, as the fight went on, started to build into it, and just had more and more good moments, and looked good in this fight. He looked really good in this fight. David Dvorak had some moments of success with the grappling to get into top position and sort of control Manel Kape, but Manel Kape was more effective from those situations and way more effective on the feet, especially as the fight went on. So very, very good performance by Manel Kape, and he's looking for a top contender, and I think he's earned a top contender. Listen, Manel Kape was one of the best not regional, he was from another big promotion, but he was one of the best flyweights outside of the UFC. And I think they chucked him straight in there with Alejandro Pantoja, and it was like, that's a tough one to get on your debut. And he ended up losing that fight, but immediately fought Mateus Nicolau, lost that one, but should have won, in my opinion. I think he got robbed in that fight, but since then has beaten Ode Osborne by KO, Zhalgas Magulov by KO, which is easier said than done because Zhalgas has made some really good fights recently. And now he's just beaten David Dvorak, so I think it's time for another top contender. Maybe Amir Albazi. Maybe more like Matt Schnell or just someone else. We've got time to try and move him up the rankings, so there's no rush to really give him anyone else who's on the rise. But maybe Matt Schnell. He's number 7 in the rankings. Manel Kape should be probably number 11 or 10 after this one. So let's give him Matt Schnell and then also move Amir Albazi up because we do want some of that switch over. Maybe rebook Albazi versus Royval. We move on up the card to another fight, which was a very good performance by Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Bryan Battle. He dominated Bryan Battle. I said he would. A lot of people were picking Bryan Battle in the build-up, and I was like, even on full camp, he don't win this. You know what I mean? You have to really, really prepare for a guy like Rinat Fakhretdinov. And he just dominated Bryan Battle the entire fight long. Knocked him down on the feet at one point as well. Hurt him badly. Almost had him finished. He had 2 10-8 rounds. And he just spent the entire fight on top. And whatever Bryan Battle tried to do, he just couldn't get it done. And Rinat Fakhretdinov just dominated him. Big shots of ground and pound here and there. Nothing too special, but it was just a good performance. It wasn't like a crazy fight where he destroyed Bryan Battle with damage. But it's just like Bryan Battle had no answer for the takedown. Fakhretdinov had 7 of 9. And just 14 minutes and 11 seconds of control time in a 15-minute fight. And during the time they were on the feet, he got a knockdown. So, this is absolute blowout performance and a very, very good performance from Rinat Fakhretdinov. Staying out of danger on the feet as well. Bryan Battle landed a punch or a shot per round One to the body, one to the leg, and one to the head. And Rinat Fakhretdinov just mauled him and stayed on top and beat him up with total strikes for the entire fight. Very good fight from Rinat Fakhretdinov. Not too interesting to watch, but that's the style of these Fakhretdinovs, or anyone else whose name ends in ov, or ev, or av. Welcome to the UFC. Can't wait for them to get more of them in the UFC. Moving on. Rafa Garcia versus Maheshate. I picked Rafa Garcia to win as an underdog. This was a decent scrap. A decent scrap between the pair of them. It got interesting in certain moments. But yeah, people were picking Maheshate. I picked Rafa Garcia as an underdog, Rafa Garcia as an underdog, and I said he would be able to get through the power of Maheshate and mix in his takedowns, because I don't mean to be mean by this, but Maheshate, Chinese, a lot of these guys from the Eastern Hemisphere, the wrestling just isn't as up to date. They're really good strikers, really, really good strikers typically, and they can get good at jiu-jitsu like the Korean Zombie, but in terms of just strict wrestling, they don't have that background, really. So I was worried that maybe Rafa Garcia was going to be able to mix it up on him, and he did. He mixed it up every round, got the takedowns that he needed to. A couple of moments he was really getting some good shots off of ground and pound on Maheshate, and he got the job done. And that's Rafa Garcia, I believe, on a really good streak right now, or a decent streak at least. Oh, no, not a really good streak, but he had a good fight against Strickland close, but he's won 4 out of his last 5. So for a guy who started his career 0-2... in the UFC with some less than ideal performances, he's really turned it around for himself. So very, very good from him. His win over Natan Levy has aged pretty well. Beat Jesse Ronson, and now he's just beaten Maheshate 3 out of his last 4. Back on track for Rafa Garcia. He's not a bad lightweight. Like, he's above the bottom level guys. So good performance from him. We move on. Up the card, Saiyokub Kakhramanov versus Said Nurmagomedov. I thought I was a genius. People told me I was stupid for picking Saiyokub Kakhramanov. And I thought I'd got it. I was a genius. This was when I was like tuning into the card, and it was like, God, when I was actually like streaming it. And I was literally saying, man, I wish I would have streamed the earlier fights, because I could have been so smug about how right I was. And then I tune in for this one, and I'm like, yeah. Outside of that guillotine in round 1, Saiyokub's dominating him, schooling him on the ground. And let's be real, yeah. I know Said Nurmagomedov won that fight. And he did win the fight. 2nd round guillotine. Latched it up and got the choke on Kakhramanov, who had to tap. But I take from that fight, Saiyokub is the contender. You know what I mean? Like, Said looks good, and he was doing good, and he was scrambling well and doing a lot of Grammy rolls to escape bad positions and keeping himself out of danger and stuff like that, and not really giving up too many submission attempts to Saiyokub Kakhramanov. But Saiyokub was like really doing great for a guy with a surname Nurmagomedov to be getting thrown around and out grappled that easily. Kakhramanov was doing an amazing job on the feet and on the ground, and it looked like Said was really slowing down. I personally believe if Said didn't get that guillotine, it was one-way traffic for the rest of the fight, because that looked like it was like a Hail Mary, like, I've got to get this or I'm going to lose this fight, because he was breathing like hands on knees, completely gassed out even after he got the finish. And Saiyokub was just standing there like, hey, man, good job. You know, I got caught, whatever. Like, I feel like that would have been one-way traffic if he didn't get that guillotine. But he got the guillotine. So, good job on the comeback submission for Said Nurmagomedov. But I'm still so interested by Saiyokub's future in that division. Like, the guy has not had an easy go of things. Had to fight Umar Nurmagomedov before he even got into the UFC. Came in and dominated Trevin Jones. Dominated Ronnie Lawrence as well. And was doing great against Said Nurmagomedov. So, and he's young. Isn't Saiyokub like 27? I feel like he's 27 years old. I'm just going to double check that right now, but I'm pretty sure Said... so this is probably better, because we get to see Said move on while he's in his prime to see what he can do in the rankings. But we'll probably see Kakhramanov again. He's 27. And he's born in November. He's just turned 27. He's got the whole of 27 to go. So we'll see what the future holds for him. He's very, very good. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which was Matthew Semelsberger versus Jake Matthews. Wow. Good scrap. Good fun scrap while it lasted. Probably the most fun fight on the card as up until that point. Matthews was good. Matthews was doing good. He was like beating Semelsberger on the feet, but every round, boom. There's the knockdown again. Boom. There's the knockdown again. I have no idea how two judges gave Jake Matthews a round. Hold on. How did they give Jake Matthews a round? Two judges gave Jake Matthews a round in that fight. Round 1, 18-8, Semelsberger, and he hit the knockdown and a bunch of ground and pound afterwards. So that's his round. Round 2, 17-17 on strikes, and Semelsberger knocked him down on his ass really badly, nearly finished him. Round 3, 10-7 to Semelsberger, and he knocked him down really badly and nearly finished him. And he had more takedowns, 3 of 5, 4 minutes and 15 seconds of control time to Matthews' 1 minute and 42. How did any judge score a round to Matthews? That's really bad of him. Either way. Yeah, Semelsberger landed that big nuke, and he has the big nukes. He has the nuclear option, which is something Jake Matthews didn't have in this fight. He was looking good in between those moments, outstriking Semelsberger. He was chopping up his legs early on as well. But Semelsberger don't need to be winning the whole time. He just needs that one moment, and he nearly had that moment against Morono. But he couldn't quite find it in round 3. But Semelsberger's dangerous, and this was a really good win from him. I think Jake Matthews should have wrestled a lot more offensively after he got knocked down in the first round. He tried 2 takedowns, I think, and he got one of them and had a minute and 42 of control time. I think he should have really went heavy on the grappling once he got hurt, but he kept trying to stand. So, yeah, good performance from Semelsberger. He moves on. And just after thinking Jake Matthews was the future of the welterweight division, Semelsberger fucking nukes his way out of it, like just nukes Matthew out of conversation of becoming a contender. We'll see if he can bounce back, but Semelsberger's dangerous, and now he's the guy to look out for, I guess. Very good performance from him. We move on up the card to another fight, which was, I'm slow on this because they haven't got the schedule here. Cory Mckenna versus Cheyanne Vlismas. Oh, no wonder I forgot. Yeah, just snooze fest. I don't know why it was the feature fight. Well, I know why, because they're both like 6 out of 10s, 5 out of 10s in real life, so that makes them an MMA 10 out of 10 for a female. So yeah, unanimous decision, Cory Mckenna, based on, I believe, the second and third round. Round 1, I mean, I don't even know. Did they give her round 1 maybe? I'm not even sure, because Cheyanne Vlismas had a clear stand-up advantage. She was schooling Cory Mckenna on the feet, landing big right hands over the top of her shots. Mckenna was having moments as well, and she got a takedown at the end of round 1, and even like both girls were doing work on the floor. But round 2, like, although Mckenna got the takedown and just held her against the cage and got a takedown at the end of the round, Vlismas arguably did more damage that round. And it's a weird one, but in women's MMA, they don't care about the damage over control rule. They just give it to control. Like, if someone gets a takedown in the round, they just win the round, basically. A lot of the times in women's MMA, more so than in men's MMA, because the strikes aren't as impactful anyway. So they look to the takedown a bit more. Round 3 was Cory McKenna's round, pretty clear. She stayed on top the majority of the time and got the strikes off that she needed to. But yeah, good win from Cory McKenna. It used her grappling. Dead fight. Really snoozy, but good win from her. I picked her to win with her grappling, and she won with her grappling. So good job, Cory McKenna. My ear is itching. We move on to the main card. Michal Oleksiejczuk versus Cody Brundage. Couple cage grabs from Mr. Oleksiejczuk. Couple glove grabs from Cody Brundage. Not too good from either of them, but Brundage didn't land a single shot early on. He got the takedowns, was ragdolling Michal Oleksiejczuk for a bit in the first 2 minutes of the fight, rolling him around, taking him down over and over again, dragging him to the canvas and stuff like that. But eventually, Michal found his moment, scrambled away, pushed off the cage, I believe, with his leg after having his back taken. He got his hips safe, pushed off the cage with his free leg and used it to sort of roll himself onto top position into full guard. And once he got there, elbows to the body to open up, elbows to the head, punches to the head, elbows to the body, elbows to the head. He was landing really big shots of ground and pound, and eventually he stood up, threw the legs to the side, and came down with a massive shot on the chin of Cody Brundage, putting him out and finishing him in the first round. Very good win from Michal Oleksiejczuk, who called out Chris Curtis I believe knowing that Curtis would be watching because Strickland was on that card. And Curtis responded, so let's get that fight made. Michal Aleksejczuk, hell of a streak right now. Looking really good recently in his career. He lost to Jacoby and lost to Crute. And other than that, he got caught by OSP after dominating him in that fight. But he's, other than that, beaten Khalil Roundtree Jr., who's ranked. At Jan Vellante, of course. Gadzi had Antigulov. He beat Modestas Pekauskas in a close fight. Shamil Gamzatov's a really good win that he got. And he finished him in the first round. And he also beat Alvi and Brundage. So Brundage was on a 2-fight win streak. I reckon they give Michal Aleksejczuk that ranked fight with Chris Curtis. Winner of that one can start looking up the rankings. We move on. And he's young. Michal Aleksejczuk's like 27. So he's a young dude. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which was Drew Dober versus Bobby Green. I picked Bobby Green to win. I was wrong. He was looking good, though. He was looking really, really good. Outlanded Drew Dober 39-17 in round 1. And even 34-17 in round 2. But round 2 was different than round 1. I know it was similar numbers in terms of how much each of them were landing, and Bobby Green was still outlanding him and stuff like that. But round 1, I believe Bobby Green rocked Dober for a second, and that was a crazy round. But Dober was a lot smarter with his shots. The thing that's been a problem for Bobby Green for the majority of his career is that he's a boxer. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to go to the head a bit too much. And Drew Dober chopped at his legs. That started to slow him down and limit his movement a bit. Went to the body quite a bit in round 1 and 2 as well. But in round 2, it changed a bit. Although Bobby Green was still winning and still doing his thing, you could see that Dober was sort of like finding his range a bit better and landing more shots upstairs. And he was doing that because he'd set him up with shots to the body beforehand and shots to the legs as well with his kicks. And eventually in round 2, he gets Bobby Green up against the cage, lands a flurry. I think he landed the first shot somewhat behind the ear as Bobby Green was sort of tucking over with his little shell that he does. And that kind of got a reaction out of Bobby Green. And then he sort of came back to, like, started moving around a bit and then got clipped with his hands down, trying to leave the exchange and circle back to the center. And the shot just whizzed right over his shoulder and right across the chin and put him out. Put him out badly. I know Bobby Green, I believe he was saying early stoppage, but put him out for a second. The referee definitely should have jumped in. So good job from Drew Dober getting it done again. Very good performance. Didn't get a performance bonus, but got fight of the night, so I guess he got some money. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which was Alex Caceres versus Julian Erosa. Wow. I was literally mocking him mid-fight for being vegan, and he pulls off a head kick like that. Phenomenal. Honestly, both guys were doing okay at range, landing their leg kicks. Erosa landed a good shot to the body with like a jumping switch kick or something like that. And I think Caceres was going for some spinning kicks. And both guys were landing some decent shots on each other. And then out of nowhere, as Erosa's sort of like moving out of the way of the head kick of or the punch of Caceres, Caceres throws a left hand, steps through, and whips his left high kick over the top, landing straight on the chin of Julian Erosa, putting him down badly. Amazing shot. Amazing head kick. And then following up afterwards with some vicious ground and pound to get a TKO win. And Alex Caceres gets a performance bonus. A lot of people don't realise this, yeah, but Caceres has been doing this. I always underestimate him, and I make that mistake every time. But he makes good money now. He makes bank now in his career because he's on a real good contract and he keeps winning. Just to put it into perspective, he got a performance of the night bonus against Choi, and he made $221,000 for that fight. He lost against Sadiq Youssef and probably like got an increase in pay for that fight, probably to like 80 for 80 maybe, but only got 80k of it. So he probably got a little bit of a pay dump against Choi, against Youssef because he lost. But we're talking 80 for 80 plus 21k plus 50k for this fight against Julian Erosa. So well done, Alex Caceres, because some of these veterans that have these okay careers later on, even like Jim Miller, they start making bank in the UFC under the radar. No one even knows about it. Like Caceres made in this fight $231,000. 80-80 is 160, 50-210 plus 21k Venom bonus. $231,000, just under $250,000. Just before Christmas. Good job, Alex Caceres. Cringe post-fight speech, but he's a vegan, so what do you expect? We move on. up the card to another fight, which was Amir Albazi versus Alessandro Costa. Worried for my pick in the first round, I'll be honest. Alessandro Costa was doing pretty good. Amir Albazi got a takedown for a second, but Alessandro Costa could have won that first round. He was looking good in that round. Keeping patient, making Albazi miss, landing good shots of his own. So it was very, very close going into second and third, and when someone needed to make a step up, it was the veteran UFC fighter Amir Albazi, who was expected to win. He made the step up, landed a clean 1-2 in round 2 that dropped Alessandro Costa, ended up on top, landed good shots from there, eventually sort of settled on top position and sort of just controlled out the rest of that round after some patience early on, just to make sure he didn't get caught any submissions. Alessandro Costa's one, he's a Brazilian, and two, he's a flyweight, so they're all dangerous off their back. And then round 3, very close, both guys landing decent shots, and then boom, the uppercut tight on the inside from Amir Albazi lands on the chin of Alessandro Costa. He was leaning forwards trying to reach Albazi after some exchanges, and Albazi read it to a T and just blew that uppercut up the middle and caught Alessandro leaning in, looking for looping punches. So very good job by Amir Albazi finding the KO. Didn't get a performance bonus. You know what I think? They made a mistake. Dude, as much as Bobby Green looked good in the fight and he was winning, he doesn't deserve a fight of the night bonus for that. I don't think. So I'm saying, no fight of the night bonus. Give a performance bonus to Michal Alexeichuk, Drew Dober, Alex Caceres, and Amir Albazi. That's what I would have done. But whatever. Anyway, we move on to another fight up the card, which was Arman Tsarukyan versus Damir Ismagulov. Arman Tsarukyan looked good. Very, very close fight. A lot of people were saying stuff like, man, Damir 1-1, like 1-1 going into the third and all this type of stuff. Like, on damage, like, listen, I know Damir was doing good on the feet, but Arman was keeping up on the feet. He was doing just as good as Damir was on the feet. He landed a big head kick at the start of round 1, bunch of body kicks in the fight as well, good leg kicks as well. Damir was landing good punches to the body and the head on Arman Tsarukyan, but Arman was landing back, and other than that, the story of the fight was Arman Tsarukyan just grinding out Damir Ismagulov in the clinch and takedowns. And even when he got him down, it's not like he did nothing with it. He took the back, fought for rear naked choke attempts that he couldn't quite get, ended up in good dominant positions. He wasn't doing much in terms of striking when they were on the ground, but it's not like Damir Ismagulov set the gap too far on the feet to where, like, he arguably was losing on the feet in that fight. He got outlanded in rounds 2 and 3 on the feet. So it's like, I don't understand how, like, really good. I know it was kind of boring and people were saying that, but it's impressive to see. That's what you have to give him credit for. Even though it wasn't a crazy fun fight that everyone was expecting because of what Damir Ismagulov Garamkutsteledze was, it showed levels of Arman Tsarukyan in terms of his grappling, because Damir Ismagulov's no joke at grappling. He can out-scramble people and stuff like that, and he even out-scrambled Arman Tsarukyan in certain moments, but it was the tenacity of Arman Tsarukyan, and I think he learned that from Mateusz Gamrot, because Arman was out-scrambling Gamrot early on, but Gamrot would keep it going. Like, as soon as the scramble happened, Gamrot would be shooting again, and that's a lot of what happened here in Arman's fight. He got 7 of 21 takedowns, and oftentimes that was failing the first 2 and getting a third. Very good win from Arman Tsarukyan. Good performance. It's very difficult to 30-27 Damir Ismagulov, and he did it. So, extremely impressive. I think he should get Chandler next. I honestly do. I think he deserves a jump up the rankings, and I think Chandler is that jump up. We move on up the card to another fight, which is Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland. I went with Jared Cannonier to win. I said he was going to destroy Strickland in 1 or 2 rounds and get the KO, but Strickland got the job done, I thought. They gave the decision to Jared Cannonier. Split decision. I thought Strickland did enough, and I want to quote something that I didn't say in my reaction video to this fight, that I think is something that maybe I need to make a whole video about it, to be honest with you guys, because I don't think it's spoken about enough. The scoring. I'll read out the comment that I put on my main channel video. I think it's tough. Here we go. Very close fight, and I'm not saying this is in any way a robbery. It wasn't a robbery, yeah, but I'm going to say this. Scoring criteria clearly states that if a round is close, damage, a judge shall assess if a fighter damages their opponent significantly in the round, even though they may not have dominated the action. Damage includes visible evidence such as swellings and lacerations. This can create defining moments in the round and shall be assessed with great value. In other words, if a round's close on the feet and one guy's showing some swelling, they lose the round, essentially. Jared Cannonier got a swollen brow over the top of his right eye in round 1, a swollen and black eye in round 2 underneath around his cheek area, and that got hurt. And then in round 3, he got his orbital swollen up at the bottom in that round. So that was not implemented. That rule was not implemented. And that's why I was kind of scoring it for Sean, was because I was thinking like, well, this is really close. Cannonier's landing good shots, but Sean's eating them and ignoring them. And Sean's landing more than Cannonier is in these rounds. But Cannonier's not reacting well to Strickland's shots, and he's swelling up in the face. So he should lose. But he didn't. Whatever. It was so close, I don't care. Strickland should have done a bit more. I just thought it should have lent his way in the judging. But very good fight. Decent scrap. Middleweight. It's not going to be too technical compared to the other fights on the card. But, you know, good fight in the main event. Very fun scrap. It got very fun towards the end of the 5th and the 4th round. And the 3rd round was pretty fun as well. And, yeah, good performance from both. Do I think either of them are ever going to be top level in the middleweight division? No. I was pretty unimpressed from both, to be honest with you, in that fight. They both looked technically quite bad. Cannonier said he made leaps and bounds since the Adesanya fight, and I think that was a bad take. I don't think he did. And, yeah, decent scrap, though. Both guys looked okay and proved that both of them are at the top outside of Whittaker, Pereira, and Adesanya, at least on the feet in the middleweight division. So we'll see what happens next. A good performance, though, from both of them. Don't put them in the main event again, though. I think 5 rounds for these big dudes. Let's save it. You know, they've had their 5-rounder. See him go 3 rounds more often because it's just more fun to see him empty the gas tank a little bit more and not have to worry about conserving their energy for 5. So let's do that next. Good fight, though, from both. And, yeah. I just know if Israel Adesanya did exactly what Sean Strickland did, they would have given him the decision win. That's all I'm going to end it on. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Yeah.